No hair pulling.
Oh, yeah.
When I was growing up in the 70s, martial art was just working its way into the mainstream. There was the Master of Kung Fu comic books. I used to really enjoy reading those. I used to like watching the TV show Kung Fu with David Carradine. The James Bond movies had some martial arts in them. Star Trek had a martial arts coordinator or choreographer, and they would do some kicks and chops and throws. And the Avengers, not the Marvel one, but the British spy show, the Avengers, they had martial arts in there, kicks and stuff. Planet of the Apes TV show. I remember the astronauts were trained in some sort of martial art that they used at that time.
It's just like a snake, okay? Watch this now. Like to keep it rolling, attack the eyes, like to do cover face to the throat, gotta expose the throat, like to do a cover face swipe to the throat like this.
I remember even Dean Martin doing, kicks and chops in the Wrecking Crew and some of those Rat Pack movies and stuff. So martial art was making its way into TV and movies, and there were kicks, karate chops, and judo throws, but we had no clue what martial art was. And we didn't know all the names of martial arts people know today. At that time, it was like Taekwondo and karate were the most famous ones. Judo was in the Olympics, and Kung Fu was becoming known. Of course, Bruce Lee for Kung Fu, but it was like this very mystical thing. And I think generally no one knew anybody who was studying Kung Fu. Obviously, the Fireandwater school was a Kung Fu school, but that was probably one of the only Kung Fu schools I had any contact with, whereas there were always kids in school that did karate or Taekwondo.
Before I throw it, I'm going this way. It's the same thing. You're stepping and you're cutting through it. You want to get your knee past it. You don't want your knee to be like way out here where you're just hitting it with your toe and break your thing. But you're aiming with your knee. You're throwing it here and you're coming out like that.
Black Belt Magazine and Kung Fu Magazine were huge at that time. There were all these fake martial artists like George Dillman and Count Dante, but then there were real people like Benny the Jet, Joe E. Lewis, Bill Wallace, Chuck Norris, but they were all lumped together. Like nobody really knew how to sort out the real fighters from the nonsense. I remember in a single issue of the magazine, you might read something about board breaking, nunchucks, and conditioning and strength training, all in the same issue, right? Because there was just so much nonsense going on, but it hadn't shaken out yet because we didn't know what was real, what wasn't. We didn't know what fighting was. We didn't know what martial art was yet. And David Collins told us a very easy way to separate the nonsense from the real. He goes, well, just get in the ring and fight. Okay, so you got to get this one. It's going to be here. No, grip his wrist. Okay, this one, yep, and grip your own wrist with that one. That's it. Now turn this way. That's it. And now lay on top of it. That's it. Good job, guys. Excellent. Once you know, because I don't like teaching technique, I teach concept. Now you got a concept. Double wrist lock is a concept. It's a throw, submission, standing on the ground. You do it anywhere. That's what I love about it. Yeah, somebody just grabs you, self-defense situation, you can do it too, And that's how you find out. You find out who's making it up and who's a bunch of nonsense and who's for real. So kickboxing, the name sort of existed, but it was just barely coming into existence at that time. And most of the martial artists that were doing any sort of full contact were doing professional karate, which really wasn't full contact by current understanding of that word. And anytime they had a matchup between just a pure boxer and a martial artist, and this is like in spectator events that people got to see, I don't know, in a National Guard armory or a local auditorium, or just anecdotally, people knew someone who got in a street fight. Anytime a boxer fought against a martial artist, the boxer generally won because boxers really were fighting. They knew how to take punches, they knew how to give them. They were in much better shape, and they would just win.
Martial artists, you can always say to control your opponent. There's a lot of Aikido techniques you can do here, very simple.
My philosophy is very simple. The Bible gives us permission to defend yourself and our family, and the weak and the meek. That's why we do martial art. We don't do martial arts for trophies or to, make people think that we're tough and this, that, and the other. We do it to defend our families and the weak and the meek. And that's my philosophy.
Now, that's all there is to it, okay? Grab them hard. Very simple. Take the same hand. Can you see what's happening? Take the same hand, turn it, takes the opponent down. Notice I have a crossed arm. If he doesn't go down, broken ribs.
And that's why when Judo Gene LaBelle beat a boxer, it was such a shocking occurrence because normally martial artists would lose these fights. However, we didn't even know the word grappling. We didn't know there were grappling arts and striking arts. We didn't have any of this concept yet. And also there was no internet. So I didn't know about Judo Gene LaBelle beating a boxer until years later.
Do everything kind of half speed or less, okay? When the guy tries to get you full elephant, what you do, go ahead, is drop your weight down first thing, put your thumb in position. This is an Ikkyo. An Ikkyo is a very nice technique. It drives the nerve structure right into the shoulders. Very painful. Nice follow-up can be used here, or you can literally break the arm, whatever. Let me show you. So, the clothesline, of course, will be formed with an arm, or it can be done with palms and things like this. As the guy reaches up at you, what you're going to do is move behind him and clothesline the opponent. I did this slow. Notice how his arm is trapped here.
In the 70s, it was shocking to most people that we were a martial arts school, but that we had proper boxing gloves and that we did boxing and we were hitting each other. That was very innovative. And I remember David Collins talking a lot about Bruce Lee. And I don't remember people really using the word Jeet Kune Do at that time, but talking about Bruce Lee and how Bruce Lee admired Muhammad Ali and he incorporated boxing, wrestling, and fencing, which he considered Western martial arts. He incorporated that into his martial art. And David Collins talked about that all the time. And so for us, he was putting boxing in with the martial arts. And having that boxing background meant that for the rest of my martial arts career, I believed that fighting was at the core of martial art. And I believed that you had to take punches to give them. And that no matter how good you were going to get hit and you were going to get cut and bruised and you were going to bleed. But if you were willing to do that more than your opponent, you were going to win. And because of that background, I was able to transition to the Muay Thai era, although I was never a very good kicker, never very good at Muay Thai, but just I transitioned through that in the 90s and, the early 2000s and then to the MMA era. My first 10 years in Asia, I was still a striker and I was training Muay Thai and all sorts of different striking arts around Asia. And then when the MMA era started, I transitioned to that. And the only reason I was able to make those transitions was because David Collins told us from the beginning, take the best parts of other martial arts and combine them. And the best parts for him were the parts that could actually fight.
Face. Smack, kick.
No. Which one? Over here. Over here.
Same time.
So I'm pulling here.
Kick inside?
Yeah. What I'm doing is I'm trapping this so you can't step back with it. If you try to step back, it's
Same time. Same time.
It doesn't happen.
right here, Dangle. Look how much foot's on. Here. One right here. So I'm going to tell you stopping him. For him to step back, he's going to have to lift his foot all the way up. Which is going to throw him off balance.
Okay, so last time I taught him this arm drag like this, right? Okay, so now from here I'm going to teach you a throw. It's going to pull your arm. It's going to pull you down. Boom. Okay, and for the folks at home, that's a submission, and he just tapped on my butt. Look at this. I just squeezed right here, made him tap. Okay. Now I'll teach you defense. Pull me. That's okay. Pull me out. There you go. There you go. That's it. Okay, so from here, I'm able to get a double wrist lock because I got his leg strapped here. I got his hand trapped to my legs. I go for double wrist lock. If I can't get it, I'll hip scoot. I'll take my leg over. I'll take him this way. And that is not jiu-jitsu, that is catch wrestling. American catch wrestling. When I got older, it became obvious to David Collins that I was a much better boxer and scrapper than I was a kickboxer, and I was never going to be a kung fu performer. So he handed me off to a professional boxing coach. So actually, my first ever professional boxing training was the direct result of David Collins, because he handed me off to that trainer. And then from there, I went to the military. I fought in a lot of smokers in the military, and I had a winning record, and I fought in smokers all over Asia, and I did really well. And I even had a few professional boxing fights before I transitioned into professional MMA. And then from professional MMA, I was eventually awarded a scholarship to study for my PhD on a wrestling scholarship. And then that led to where I am today, which is I'm a college professor and an economist who wrestles in Mongolia. And it all started at that little school in Blountville, Tennessee. So when I say that David Collins set me on my martial arts journey, I mean, apart from teaching me to fight, he taught me to value fighting and to learn from every art and combine it based on effectiveness. Oh my God. Tell these guys who you are.
I'm Noah.
No, that's not Noah.
I'm Noah. I've been coming here for close to 10 years. I actually found this place by accident, and I just never stopped. I focused on myself, helped others, and I found that the better I got at helping others. So always focus on helping others, and you'll learn so much about helping yourself.
This guy's a professional powerlifter guy. He only outweighs me by like 10 pounds, but he is so strong. It's crazy. Crazy. All right, man. Thank you very much, brother. Hey, I'm Antonio Griselva, the Brooklyn Monk, and this is Martial Arts Odyssey. I have been at my home, my boyhood home, where I grew up as a little boy, learning martial arts out here at Fireandwater in Blountville, Tennessee. You know, my Shifu trained me all the time when I was a kid, sent me off to the world, and now I came back, showing what I learned, and yeah, he's been really excited. He's been really welcoming, and this program here is just amazing. The school now has 51 years. It's been in the same location, and I see a whole new crop of young kids coming up behind me, and I'm so excited that the lineage will continue. So I'm the Brooklyn Monk. That's it for this episode of Martial Arts Odyssey. Remember, get in the gym, do your sets, do your reps, do your road work, and please say a prayer for the people of Burma.